The night was cold. The kind of cold that bit into the bones and refused to let go. Mark sat on the cracked sidewalk, his back against the rough brick wall of a closed convenience store. His hands were shoved deep into the pockets of his tattered coat, though it did little to shield him from the wind. His stomach grumbled, but he ignored it. Hunger had become a familiar companion, like an old wound that never fully healed. People walked past him, their faces set in that same, practiced expression, avoidance. They saw him, but they didn't see him. Until she did. It happened so quickly that Mark almost didn't react. A young woman, who'd pulled over her head, sunglasses covering her eyes, stopped right in front of him. He hesitated, then cleared his throat. "Excuse me, can you spare $1?" At first, she didn't move. Didn't even blink. Then, slowly, she took off her sunglasses. Mark froze. He recognized her instantly. Even in the dim glow of the streetlight, there was no mistaking that face. Selena Gomez. His breath hitched. He had seen her on TV screens, on billboards, in magazines that people threw away. Yet, here she was, looking right at him. She crouched down, bringing herself to his eye level. $1, she asked softly. Mark nodded, unsure what else to say. She studied him for a long moment. He expected the usual look of pity, the kind that people wore when they thought a couple of coins would cleanse their guilt. But her eyes held something different. Something he couldn't quite place. Then, she did something that left him stunned. "Come with me." Mark blinked. "What?" She stood up, tucking her sunglasses into her pocket. "Come with me," she repeated. "I'll get you something better than $1." Mark hesitated. His mind raced. Was this real? Could he trust her? People had played tricks on him before, made promises that led nowhere. But something about her felt genuine. His legs ached as he pushed himself up. He wobbled slightly, and used to standing for long periods, but he followed. Selena led him to a cafe just down the street. The moment they stepped inside, Mark felt the heat rush over his frozen skin. He shivered. People turned to stare, their conversations pausing for just a moment before resuming. He was used to it. But she wasn't. Selena ignored the looks, walking straight up to the counter. "Order whatever you want," she said, glancing back at him. Mark swallowed. "Just coffee." She raised an eyebrow. "That's it?" "That's enough," he said quickly. She shook her head. "No. A full meal. And a coffee." Before he could protest, she was already ordering. Minutes later, a steaming plate of food was placed in front of him, eggs, bacon, toast, and a cup of coffee that smelled like heaven. His hands trembled as he picked up the fork. He took a bite, then another. He hadn't eaten like this in years. Selena watched him, resting her chin on her hand. "What's your name?" He hesitated. Nobody ever asked for his name. "Mark," he finally said. "Nice to meet you, Mark." "I'm Selena." He huffed a small, breathless laugh. "Yeah. I know." She grinned. Figured. For the first time in a long time, he felt human. But it didn't end there. When he was done eating, she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She slid it across the table. Mark frowned, picking it up. It wasn't money. It was an address. "What's this?" he asked. "A shelter," she said. "A good one." I called ahead. "They have space for you." His fingers tightened around the paper. "Why?" She leaned forward, her eyes serious. "Because I know what it's like to struggle. And because I believe you can get back on your feet." His throat tightened. People always assumed they knew his story. That he was just another lost cause. But she didn't treat him like that. Mark took a deep breath. Maybe, just maybe, this was the chance he had been waiting for. The next morning, he went to the shelter. And for the first time in years, he had a bed, a hot shower, and a fresh start. And it all started with a single dollar he never received, but got something far more valuable instead.